All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Kubernetes Cloud Provider 6 SubProject Provider IBM Cloud meeting today on September 25th, 2019. My name is Sahadev Zala. I'm your meeting host today. Please keep in mind that this is a public meeting and it's being recorded, and we will make this recording available on the YouTube. So be considerate of what you speak about. The agenda is in the chat, so please take a look. And let me actually share my screen so that we sort of stay on top of the agendas here. All right. So I think we can skip the first one, the introduction, new members. There are three different items on the agenda. I think we can go with Richard. You wanna provide any updates on the IKS side, the latest developments, kind of things?
Sure, I can give you an overview.
Okay.
So I will state that we are working on our 1.16 release, which is no surprise, is the community release 1.16. On that front, and kind of related to our discussion before we started the call on the stability of 1.16. One of the major things about Kube 1.16 is they removed APIs that they've had deprecated for a long time. You'll recognize these pretty easily. They impact deployments and daemon sets and so on. So this is a really important deprecation and removal, and they have set the stage. If you look at their changelog and in their blog, recent blog posts about it, for additional removals going down the road here for subsequent releases. So I'm going to put together, and I've been trying to educate folks on our side, and I'm going to put together a blog here and then shoot it out on the channels so folks can basically have some tools in their kit to go ahead and be able to handle this. Certainly, we're not the only ones impacted, and I'm certain others will provide additional help for their users as well. So I will be working on that. On the cloud provider front, we have support now for VPC load balancers within our cloud provider. So now that IKS supports VPC, so this has been one of the things we've been working on in the cloud provider. It's kind of trumped our work for open sourcing that, and also kind of puts a little bit of challenge in that is we now need our VPC API layer to also open source, and we're working with folks to try to make that happen so that once we are ready to make that cloud provider source available, the folks can actually have the VPC source RIAS APIs available as well. So.
Okay.
And that's all I have for now.
No, that's pretty cool. Any question, anyone?
What is the channel you were going to put that on, Richard?
I'll be posting it on our provider IBM Cloud channel, the blog there, and then as well as our IKS external and internal channels.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much, Richard. So there are a couple other things, and before we open for the open discussion, these are more like a follow-up. The cluster API provider IBM Cloud, that's one of the sub-project we have, and I have provided a link here. It's basically this one. If you are interested, you can take a more look here later. But we started this project early this year. A lot of good progress has been made so far. The main things, I think, the basic support for on cluster API for IBM Cloud, the software side, infrastructure side is already done now. So that's great news. It's more like in maintenance support now. So pretty stable, creating new cluster, deleting it, adding new nodes, removing kind of things. So all the basic API support is already provided. And the team there is working on some of the advanced features on the cluster API side on top of this basic support. So work keeps continue growing there. And the second updates I have are related to OpenShift questions. We had some discussions around, should we use the provider IBMCloud SubProject, and this meeting right now, about any OpenShift questions. So, just to follow up on that, we can have more discussions if we need it. But the answer is, yeah, we can use this group, this SubProject, for any questions on OpenShift related to OpenShift on IBM Cloud on IKS side. Um, just for the standalone OpenShift, this might not be the right group, but like I said, in regards to OpenShift on IBM Cloud, we definitely can use this group for any questions, for discussions. And if we cannot answer it here, Richard, myself will be happy to take it to some of the SMEs, and we can find the answers for you. So that's pretty much it actually with the updates, follow up, Other than that, I think I mentioned last meeting that we will have our session at KubeCon. So, we still have some time before we start wrapping around that. So we will have some good content, and we'll be sharing with everyone, as we make progress there, as we maybe sometime next month, mid next month kind of thing. Other than that, I think, we can just go for the open discussions. Any question, any suggestions, anything that you want to share, please open up now. I think I can provide with the open discussion one more updates that, we are now attending the cloud provider SIG. Richard used to attend, now him and myself both attend those meetings. And I think the work is going on there. We don't have any in-cloud or in-tree code there, so we're not doing anything there. But some of the other providers, the early folks there who have in-tree cloud provider code on Kubernetes side, it's already, some of them already moved to out of tree, and some in progress. So that was the discussion we had in the last cloud provider SIG meeting. Other than that, I think seems like no big updates from any cloud provider.
I do have a question on a different topic. It's certainly Kubernetes related. I guess in general, since we provide Kubernetes as a service, but on other projects, and certainly, I work on the BBC project with this thing here. One of the commitments that IBM has is in terms of compliance for our customers and such, which they expect that, which is a great thing. But specifically on Kubernetes, if we have certain scanners that go out and they scan various pods, images, and things like that, so that you put a container on your Kubernetes cluster, it will scan it, tell you the vulnerabilities, and give you some timeline of when to remediate those vulnerabilities in terms of CVEs, for example, right? The interesting thing is that on Kubernetes itself, the Hyperkube package itself, there are pods, as you know, static pods for the API server, scheduler, and controller, and even those are getting flagged with CVEs and stuff like that. And I've even seen some recent articles, people bragging that, hey, guess what, guys, Kubernetes has vulnerabilities and such. And I mean, this is always security people's they love this stuff, right? So that's what they go after, to drum up the business or just to give the awareness, which is fine. It's all fine. But the challenge that we're having is that security people say you got to have 0 CVEs, you got to have 0 vulnerabilities, which is a very reasonable goal. But I'm finding that you can upgrade Kubernetes to 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, and you will never get 0. How is or how is anybody dealing with that kind of situation? Are you just saying, let's just cure the highs and criticals, or what are you doing to mitigate that? Are you maybe building the thing, rebasing it with a new base image that has less vulnerabilities, for example? I hope I'm not unique in this situation.
No, you're not. Yeah, this is kind of my life, unfortunately.
That is pretty much what I've come to the conclusion. This is our life for compliance. I mean, customers love us for that, I think, right? So I hope the effort is definitely not, unrewarded to IBM, but it is certainly a big effort.
Yeah. So go ahead, Sadiq.
I was going to say, how do you cope with that, or what's a good way to cope with that regularly? Because there will always be vulnerabilities. Probably weekly is when these scanners want to get into that cadence.
And Richard, I think you go ahead. I mean, you will have the better answer. I didn't have an answer. I just wanted to add that when you mentioning those vulnerabilities, Dennis, in the previous versions, any latest ones, right? I mean, aren't those reported publicly?
Yes.
And so, I mean, aren't that being fixed by the community? There is really good team on the Kubernetes side, the security release process team. And I know like it's built off some of the really good or great SMEs on the security side, and they seem to staying on top of the security vulnerabilities.
So on that question, the answer is yes, they are vulnerable. They are aware. We've actually submitted some of those issues to them, and the plan is to move away from Hyperkube and move away from the base image they're using to build, that they're providing some of these images off of, say, from API server. They want to go to a distroless based image and try to, I believe is their solution long term, to get away from the
Alpine comes to mind, for example.
Right, because you drag a bunch of stuff along that's not even used. It gets flagged with CVEs, and it really doesn't apply to the case of using that container on your system. I mean, certainly if somebody logged into the container exec in, and they could potentially exploit that, but that's already another whole conversation, right? Anyway, so you get flagged with these things that really don't apply. And I think that's really what it comes down to handle, Dennis, the concern that you have is we will analyze in the case of Hyperkube, we realize that there are CVEs for it. We believe that these CVEs say don't apply as far as normal usage scenario, and we would take a risk on that.
Okay.
And then monitor that risk with a goal towards getting off of that. So that would be one mitigation. The other one is we simply update packages, right? Even if we don't think we're vulnerable, we just set up a standard here. Every couple of weeks we're going to make an update, and we're just going to keep providing them and keep squashing the CVE list down. That's one option as well. The third is another option we take is, look, a lot of times these CVEs are based on, say, you'll find curl and OpenSSL are a couple heavy hitters. Those, if you can, remove them from your container images, because then you'll go and squash half the CVEs down automatically by virtue of doing that. And so you could do that rather than moving base image, or you could move like to a distroless base image, go from scratch, get rid of all these other dependencies that you don't need for your container.
So are you talking about then going to the source code and rebuilding the whole image and swap out whatever base image they use and use like Alpine and just rebuilding it that way?
We'd like to not do that at all. No.
Yeah, I would. I'm in agreement there. So
we would rather have community base, make those type of decisions for whatever they own.
Okay, so do we think that the things you just mentioned, probably like 3 of them, are we just waiting for the community to do that, to do the updating of packages, and somehow we'll just download whatever they put out?
Right. So a lot of the risk assessment on that is to say, look, we don't have a fix from the community on this image, and we're going to take the risk that it's not serious and it's okay to wait for them to provide it, so that we don't have to rebuild or do anything of that nature, which adds additional risk top of
Okay, that sounds good. So do you have the verbiage on the IKS public site that you tell the customers who are using IKS?
Yes,
Oh, you do? Okay. Can you drop a link in that here somewhere? That'd be good to
sure.
know. Because we'd like to follow the same type of track. Because I figure if it's safe there and customers are very well aware of it, we can just follow the same policy. I like the idea of waiting for the community to and I like that you said that they're moving towards using one of these distro-less images so that we can get less vulnerability. So, all right, thank you very much.
Yeah, and in there you'll find the link. So there are certain things that obviously we believe are in cases where there is a vulnerability that we believe can be exploited through regular usage. We would then issue a security bulletin for that, which you'll find Kubernetes items in, and otherwise you'll see in the changelog, we believe these not to be vulnerable under normal usage, and certainly details of all the CVEs we fix for various packages and components are listed on that changelog, and that's how we've managed it to date.
Okay, that sounds good. But you're not actually pulling packages out and rebuilding any images and making them available to customers, right? You're just waiting for the next version or .point release and then give people notice that that's available?
That's not always true, but generally it is.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So then the onus is basically then on the customer to say, to initiate the upgrade so that they can get the latest one, right?
Right.
So
well, it's on us too. We have a timeline set. I mean, if we have severe CVEs, right, then high give us so many days to make it available, and then we would expect customers within so many days to apply, right? So
I see.
the cycle closes relatively quickly. For a high severity, you could get those done in a couple weeks.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks again, man.
Yep.
All right, that was great. Thanks, Richard. Hey, so I just again, just for curiosity and showing. So, are there like a cloud specific, provider specific CVs out there too, or those are more general, or I guess both?
Right, and I think the CVE process, you have to register whatever product or service you have, right, to get CVE numbers. You need to be able to. There's a certain sign up process to do that. So certainly some folks have that, some don't, but it's just a way of tracking it. A lot of these are for obviously open source projects. I have a lot of this internal stuff. I think it depends, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, we have internal processes put in place that are pretty tight for compliance and security. So that's kind of been in your words, Richard. It's kind of been my life here for the past several months now, just getting that stuff in order. And it's kind of a relatively new process for this particular thing. But again, because of the what we advertise to customers about being very secure in certain ways and complying with certain things that customers are expecting. I mean, we're happy to do it. It just takes some time, and we're trying to coordinate with what are some of the best practices we do in other parts of IBM, just to be consistent.
Cool. Thanks. All right. So, any
one quick question is, I'm sorry if I missed the part of that conversation, but is there any tooling we use? Because there are a couple of like container patch management, security patch management tooling that exists. So I know we use some of those toolings, but for this discussion, are you guys using any of the existing tooling that exists?
Yeah, I don't. We don't actually. If we're going to apply patches, what that means to us is that we get a new version of Kubernetes or a new version of Hypercube in this case, and then we have to go through the process of testing and then eventually rolling out that version of Kubernetes in our production. So we have a set of rigorous tests to make sure that everything is going to go just fine, so that when we roll it out, it's kind of a no-brainer. You just kind of run it and it goes. But it's just that it's mostly a best practices thing. We do have scanners. IBM internal has a set of people that do scanning on all these things here to make sure everybody's compliant, or at least give you a notice that you're not. And then it's up to the individual groups to have their own processes to mitigate whatever vulnerabilities they have. Ours is because, I come from a big testing background. I like to know that, we have a good set of pipelines and tests and things like that and processes just so that I know when this thing runs, it works, then I can roll it out. But that's basically our tooling. We use KubeSpray for for rolling out the Kubernetes upgrades, and even for building Kubernetes. So we're sticking with that. And it's our custom version of KubeSpray. We stuck with a particular version that worked well and made our own bug fixes to keep things very stable. Because we're just reluctant to download the latest version from the internet, because who knows what they could have changed. We want to qualify the thing away from production and know it works, and then we use exactly that version. We're even doing things like sorry about that. We're even doing things like downloading the versions of Hypercube and putting them into our container registry so that we can qualify them first before actually deploying them out to production.
Okay. Thanks. We can check offline. But a while back, I was looking at this project from CoreOS. Now CoreOS is part of Red Hat and IBM now. So they do some of the container related scanning as well. So take a look at it, and if it makes sense to use it.
Okay, I see your link there. Thank you.
Yeah, we're using the VA scanner that we have to scan this images, or the container images statically. It gives us a report, and then from there we update them. Usually some automated tooling will go ahead and do updates of the individual packages, and then we go ahead and generate new images, and then those roll out as part of rollout process for Kube. That just means like, hey, you update your deployment of image, Kube takes care of rolling the pods out as you desire. That's basically the structure we have.
Okay, so I think you said VA, right? Is that an internal IBM thing?
No, it should be available for customers as well. When they post to the container registry, they can get scanned.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes. If we use on IBMCloud, there's a container registry, which you ought to get automatic scans. Yep.
Right. That's what we use.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, we make use of that as well. That's where I was able to just drop some of the versions of Hypercube on, and I could see how many vulnerabilities there were. So that's very handy. Yeah, thanks for the link on the Claire. I think I've heard of that one before. We're also using a third party. I don't know if I'm supposed to say, but it definitely is a third party that we're evaluating, just for the container scanning. We're still trying to figure out if we want to stay with that version or not. But the BA is definitely useful to us as well.
Sure, Dennis, ping me after the call, and I can share one or two other companies that at least we have a conversation with them, not related to open source, but when I have given any talks in conferences, etc., I've talked to them. They were co-presenter, etc. So they are in the same security patching area. So take a look at those solutions as well. And I don't know what is the status of IBM BigFix, but that was a big patch management tooling that IBM had a while back. So I don't know the current status of BigFix. So.
Okay, sounds good.
This is an interesting problem, and I don't think in CNCF on open source I haven't seen much on this space. So this is definitely a space that will that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I think it will grow. I could see it as a good business because with the big Kubernetes craze, people are going to want to open up the whole door on the whole security scanning on just containers running and orchestration setups like that. So that's a whole new green field space where people can go into.
And I think this highlights too the fact that you need to be really cloud native in the sense you can update quickly. Not everyone's like that. And when you have this type of activity going on and the scans on a daily basis and CVEs constantly, you can't possibly keep up unless you're, have a good process for updating your stuff and the stuff that you're on, depending on as well.
Agreed. That is, and I sigh because that is a big roadmap item that I have. As I'm a CI/CD tech lead. That's one of our big roadmap items because people keep saying that this thing, they want the cadence to be weekly. And I think right now weekly is crazy. But as you said, at some point I want to be that nimble. I want to know that I can do a Kubernetes upgrade very weekly and have very proactive in the versions to know that we have the pipelines going ahead of time, to know that if it's time to go, you already know you've already tested that version kind of thing. But yeah, I hear you. You're 100% right on. We need to get really nimble on this stuff.
Yep. Cool. So I think before we possibly end the call, I think the vulnerability advisor, the VA, is offering ICP as well, right? I think not just IKS. So it's I think that's true, right, Richard? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is not unique to IKS, the container registry tooling and VA scanning, right?
Yeah, I think that's the same VA is used by ICP. So which makes sense. All right. Any other topic? Great discussion so far. So if not, then going once, twice, and all right. Well, we can have some time back, guys. Thank you so much. Great discussion again, and let's meet in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, we have Slack and email and all other ways to communicate. So let's keep talking. Let's keep discussing and doing all this great stuff. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Yes.
Have a good one. Thanks.
Thanks, Nimesh, Richard, everyone. All right.
Thank you. Bye now.
All right. Bye.